Good afternoon, and welcome to another careers webinar with the Yale School of Management alumni collaboration with the Career Development Office. My name is Cindy Cornell, and I am the career coach for working professionals supporting our MBA for executive students and our alumni. And I am glad that you're here with us today. Today we're talking about powerful relationships to get you where you want to go. Before we get started, I'd love to remind you to please focus on our time today. We have a lot to cover, and this is important stuff that can make a difference in your career. So I'm hopeful that you're able to really take some time with this and think about how you can implement these processes to make a difference for yourself and your career. These programs are for you. So I also wanted to point out that we are putting together a survey at the end, and I'd love it if you could take a few minutes to please take some time to share your feedback, what's worked well for you, what you found perhaps particularly impactful, and what you might like to send differently in the future. Your feedback is incredibly helpful to maintaining these processes through and making improvements to the programming. Our agenda today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, we're going to talk about charging your network. We're going to talk about the big three things that you can actually do in your career to add powerful people in your network that are going to make a difference in where you go. We'll get into a little bit about intentional network growth, how you can create some strategies you can do to create those stronger works, those relationships with those individuals, and then finally our wrap up and Q&A. Again, the topic today is really talking about the fact that most successful leaders acknowledge the significant role others have played in their success, including mentors, advocates, and sponsors. So we're going to talk about leveraging our network to develop and grow those relationships. So let's dive in. Supercharging your network. More is not necessarily better. A lot of people think about this. This comes from Dunbar's number and some research that looks at how big networks are. And the research basically says that the number of relationships you can effectively have in your life is a function of brain size. So 150 is the number of meaningful contacts. Beyond that, there's 500 or so acquaintances, and then beyond that, be 1,500 people that you're familiar with or that you would recognize. Some research says no, people in the United States can have 290 meaningful contacts. Regardless, the research says that we can't have an infinite number of relationships. We really need to focus on a specific number of relationships that's going to be helpful. And that we can nurture and focus on. So just pointing this out to start, more is not necessarily better. And I do hear that often where people say, I just need more contacts. Really, we want to focus the number of contacts we have and make sure that the contacts that we're focusing on and really kind of getting to know and sharing with are ones that are getting us, as the title of program today, getting us where we want to go. So moving beyond here, where do we want to go? Who knows the way? This is some pictures of New York. They're all pictures of New York. One is from the space station. One is a high-level view of Manhattan looking across Central Park. One is looking down a street. If you're trying to land in a certain boardroom, though, who knows the way? Who's been down the path before? Who knows what it takes to succeed? Who knows what doors to knock on along the way? And maybe where to take some pauses and breaks to get some new information that are going to help you to be successful when you land in the place that you do really want to go, which is here. So those relationships are, again, those people that have taken the path before, that have had some experiences before, who've maybe stumbled before. They might want to help you to learn from their own mistakes. And we really are going to focus our time together today talking about nurturing those relationships. Speaking about your network, I do want to also point out that perspective matters. Eric Schmidt, the chairman of Alphabet and Google, has been an incredibly strong advocate for coaching through his career. And we'll speak about him a little bit more later. But he talks about the fact that people are notoriously bad at taking perspective on themselves and really understanding how they show up to the world. So perspective matters, and certain people in your network are going to be really helpful at helping you to know yourself better. And certain people in your network are going to be able to help you to look out and see what possibilities are out there. Another thing that I wanted to point out to you is that we tend to, and this I see often also in job search, people look for what they know in the places they've looked before. So having people in your network that can see possibilities, see potential, and maybe point out things that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed are incredibly helpful people to have in your network. So really being aware of that. And the other thing I say, leveraging what we've talked about earlier in some of our careers webinars this year. We do also have a lot of change going on in the world right now, where we are looking at 2019 and 2020 not being predictive of 2021. And we don't know what's going to happen in 2022. So again, having people that are supporting you in your career development and growth, that have these different perspectives that can help you to see how things might evolve differently are incredibly helpful. The mirrors, I have a bunch of pictures here, and I just wanted to point out, I could have just as easily had a number of different pictures of windows, but the mirrors, I just want to point out that you're seen differently by different people. So that's also really important as well. We all know that one point of view is not statistically significant. So really taking in data and trying it on and seeing, kind of what feedback says about you can be incredibly helpful to your career development and getting you again where you want to go. So just thinking about your network, who's in it, with whom am I actually spending time cultivating my relationships, who's in that very core central part of it, and do I need some different people in there that are going to really support me long term. So let's dive in and talk about what I'm calling today the big three: advocates, mentors, and sponsors. Advocates, we can sometimes think about brand advocates or fans. These are people that are really great at helping you to build your brand. They are outside of you. It's not you saying, hey, look at these things I've done, but people who have said, hey, this is somebody who's actually doing some great work. I'm a big fan. Here's the impact they've had on me. They might actually see potential or encourage. We can think about people who are, kind of on the sidelines, kind of cheering you on. They may proactively educate and share within networks. They may give some voice to people who feel marginalized. A lot of DEI initiatives or support networks exist for people who don't necessarily have the support they need to potentially make a transition if we're talking about work. And they do what they can to really kind of support people in achieving their goals. I want to share this idea about advocacy. This is a common way people ask people to advocate for people in work. Sometimes people know you and sometimes they don't, but this idea of, would you refer me in, is one that you want to think about. So if somebody's going to refer you in to a job, if you're looking for a role you see that you're excited by, what happens there for them if you're a really great candidate? Well, you actually build their brand too. So there's a mutual benefit in these relationships. That just doesn't go one way. You're looking at thinking about, how can me showing up and demonstrating that I have interest and experience in things that are important, they're going to be reflected well by sharing with the rest of the organization. This is super important. So you want to be really clear when you reach out to somebody that you have what it takes to do what's being asked. Time is of an essence often when we're looking at some of our job descriptions and application processes. Super important to think about these types of things proactively. So if you are wanting to cultivate your network and you are thinking about, well, I'm interested in, your industry, aerospace, some realm of sustainability, supply chain consulting, who are the companies, who are the individuals that are involved in those things? Because if you wait until the job is posted and then you reach out to them and say, hey, I see you went to SOM, can you help me? That's actually, maybe going to take a little bit of time for them to get to know you, because they're not sure yet if you're a risk to their reputation or if you're going to really support their reputation. Will connecting their brand to your brand through this advocacy, through this recommendation, be helpful? So think about who you want to meet before the job posting pops up, and see if you can develop some relationships with them. We talked in prior webinars about being curious and asking questions about, I'm curious about this element of the job. I see you posting these things on LinkedIn. You seem to be an industry expert. I'm contemplating what comes next in my career, and asking a question. So you develop these relationships, so when you do see the job opportunity, it's super easy for them to say, yep, you're a great fit for this. You want to be able to practice these things, and you can even talk to your potential advocates to keep these relationships you're cultivating, people who might be your fans who would be excited to include you into their organizations. You might want to kind of even have them help you to clarify your messaging relative to the companies that you're talking to. So that's a common form of brand advocacy or personal advocacy. The next one that I want to speak about is mentor. And mentor has its roots in Greek mythology. For those of you that might remember that, when the Trojan War was off, going on, Odysseus actually asked his friend Mentor to take care of his son and school him in leadership and management of properties, etc. So these are not necessarily older people, but certainly more experienced people, mentors. They offer really sound guidance and advice. They are able to help you to understand what's needed for you to achieve what you're hoping to achieve in life, in your professional life. Watch out with mentors. Sometimes you want to make sure that they are really clear about what you're interested in and the situation of the world, because you're typically following in their footsteps. And if you want to do something slightly off or slightly different from what they've done in the past, you want to be clear about that and make sure that you have that good rapport. They are people that you trust very highly. They do have that high content expertise, and the intimacy is high as well. These people are, kind of partnering with you in your growth and your success, just to kind of make you think about, why would somebody mentor me? Why would they take this time? They probably see something of you or something of themselves in you. So this is a place where they're excited to give back. They're excited to support potentially the next generation. They are excited to continue work in ways that they're kind of beyond, if they've moved past those spaces in their career, or maybe even are close to or retired, right? They're remaining relevant in and around things that they're excited about and that they find useful. So you want to think about who you'd like to have be your mentor and what their motivations are, and really what you have to offer to them as well, because they're not just doing it for you, but they are these experienced advisors. They've done typically what you've done before, and they are supporting you in your journey to be really successful in whatever it is that you're focusing on. I watched a recent interview with SOM's own Indra Nooyi when she was speaking about her just published book, My Life in Full. And one of the questions that came at the end of the interview was fabulous. It said, how do I find a mentor? Because clearly Indra talked about mentors in her life. She talked about how she's mentored people. And somebody wanted to know, how do I get a mentor? And her statement was very clear. It was, mentors find you. So again, this is super important as you're thinking about, how do you actually, find this mentor? How do you get this mentor? You think about, what would make you attractive to a mentor? What are the things that you're doing in your business life that would help them to say, this is somebody that I want to actually invest in. This is somebody, to throw out another metaphor, this is a horse that I'm going to bet on in the race. And those things could be varied. They could be that they see you delivering great results. They see you speaking up. They see you expressing interest in topics that they find of interest and that they care about. They see you demonstrate strong leadership capabilities. They see your commitment to continued learning. This isn't about a lot of bravado and kind of saying, look at me, though that's a part of it. Self-advocacy and speaking up and letting people know what you're doing is important. And I just say another word about that. When you have a mentor and you're talking about some kind of growth plan, you want to make sure that you're both clear about where are we today and where do we want to get to. Just like I showed the pictures of New York, and you can look at it from the top and say, I want to get there. Then when you get down closer to it, we're going to get a little bit more granular in the goals. So where are you today? What have you accomplished since the last time we spoke? And you want to share with your mentor, and later on when we get into sponsors, in language that is memorable and repeatable. So really kind of thinking about how do you put yourself out there to have a mentor find you. Super important for you to think about what might make me attractive. And on the other side of it, we could even go back to and think about some of the things that we talked about in closing gaps in your resume to get the role. What might be some objections people would have? And is there anything I need to do to proactively overcome those objections to help those mentors be more excited to say yes? And again, it isn't necessarily that we reach out and say, oh, you're my mentor today. It's a relationship that potentially evolves. So if you would step back and think about your network, and this might be something for you to do today after the session, just in these first two different categories of powerful relationships, who are people that you might consider to be your personal brand advocates? Are there people out there who you would like to be your brand advocates that maybe aren't yet? And what would they need to know about you or hear about you to be willing to kind of put you out there for them, or put you out there and into their networks? And same with mentors. Who are the people from whom you'd like to grow and learn? And are they aware of you? And if they're not yet, how might they become aware of you in ways that you could cultivate a relationship that could become mutual? Again, short term, let's put a list together and start thinking about who those people could be. And then we can do a little bit more work together to figure out what you can do specifically to cultivate those relationships. So again, mentors find you. They need to be excited about you. It's not that you're just running out and tapping them on the shoulder and say, hey, dive into the next one. Sponsor is someone that has great power and influence. Law firms often have formal sponsorship programs for people who are actually moving into the partner role. Something that's kind of interesting with this sponsor, they're a champion. They are very tightly tying their brand to you. They are seen as how differently responsible than perhaps would be the mentors or the advocates, where all are linking their brands to you by their association. Sponsor is perhaps the one that is the strongest. They're endorsing on your behalf. They are potentially asking for personal favors on your behalf. And these people really need to be much more clearly articulated with in terms of what's required for success, and knowing what you've done to, in fact, achieve the things that are required to do whatever it is that you want to do next. These relationships can be incredibly powerful. And if you want to think about the example I gave a moment ago, the law firm, it's formal. Wouldn't it be great, though, if you'd actually begun to cultivate that relationship before the official assignment as you're preparing to be promoted? So it's an obvious connection that, oh, well, of course, this person will be your sponsor, Or it could be that you have an official sponsor through that program, and you have these other people who are acting as your unofficial sponsor. So, you've got more than one person kind of rooting for you through a process. Sometimes it's useful also to think about these folks as being in different parts of the business. So for example, a law firm, you're all kind of going in one direction to become partner. But if you're thinking about sponsorship, if you're looking to grow in another business, think about a larger, manufacturing firm, for example, or a consumer products organization. You have people on the marketing side of the business, and you have people on the supply side of the business, and it all comes up to senior management. Who are the people that actually see that you understand the business, and that understand that when you work with them and you support their teams, they could be people that aren't even on your team. They're not even in your functional area, but that these people see something in you. They appreciate your leadership, and they're rooting for you because they want to bring your point of view into larger areas of management. So it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody as a sponsor who's done exactly what you've done, or where you're kind of following that same path. It's somebody in the organization above you who is excited to see you, and they're pulling you up kind of, with them along the way. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of what a relationship with a sponsor could be. Again, how do you get one? You want to think like a mentor or sponsor. So I'm just curious, if you're looking for somebody who is a mentor, they're looking for somebody who's open to learning, who's listening, who is somewhat ambitious, who is appreciative of the journey that person has been on, what they know. They are asking intelligent questions about that body of work. They are potentially looking at continuing and growing that body of work. And they are potentially also interested in, if the mentor is giving back, they're also interested in a person who's also giving to people that are below them as well. So what are the qualities of the mentor that you're seeking, and how do you show up to make it easy for them to say yes to you? Same with a sponsor. Again, that sponsor is looking at you and thinking about, kind of, is this person good for the business? Does advocating for this person put me in a good light? And any of these groups, if there's some element of risk, inherent risk, they're likely to, not be as enthusiastic about, putting you forward. So you really want to, again, understand what could be perceived risks and mitigate them to the extent that you can, to make it really easy for these people to put you forth. So those are a couple of ideas about how to get one. You want to help them to help you. One of the challenges that comes up so incredibly often in coaching conversations with people is that they're not clear about what they want. And we show up in ways where we are potentially saying, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And we're effectively showing up as problems, not necessarily as solutions. And it's not necessarily making it easy for people to put us forward. So you want to be really clear about what you're trying to achieve in your world, in your career, and you also want to be open to their new ideas and suggestions. Again, remember what I said earlier about people looking for what they've done before, or looking for what they know in the places they've looked before. One of the reasons that you're engaging with these people is because they're helping you both to see you and helping you to see your potential out there in the world. So clear idea about the direction you want to go in, and new ideas about what you want to achieve next. You also want to be unambiguous about kind of what you're looking for, without having a checklist. I know there's some people that are saying my next role is going to have this and this and this and this. If you can be a little bit more open to that, in terms of the types of skills that I want to employ and the type of impact I want to have, and the types of organizations I'm excited to operate in, that's super helpful in terms of being able to share with folks what what direction that you want to go in and how they can help you. The other piece around communication, super important for your messages to be resonant and memorable so that they can be repeated. Again, these mentors, these advocates, these sponsors, they are sharing something about what you've done, and they're sharing it with other people to grow your brand and get other people to be excited about working with you as well, opening up new doors and opportunities. So you need to share information that makes it easy for them to repeat and remember. So again, if we think about who are they, what are we trying to achieve, and what is the language of the person to whom they're going to communicate, we can then translate our point of view into that other point of view. An example I give sometimes is a CEO talking to an accountant. They're not going to want to talk about accounts receivable and accounts payable. But if you're looking for a cash acquisition of a business in the fourth quarter and you're seeing an issue with the cash conversion cycle that could impair free cash flow, they're going to listen to that. So you really have to talk about the debits and the credits and the language that the person that you're speaking to understands. So we have this idea about having these new people in our networks. And again, if we go back to that, how many relationships do we have? We might think about, where do they fit in terms of that circle? We're in the middle, and how far out are they, and how do we get them closer in? I do want you to think about the fact that those people who might be your network, your sponsors and your advocates and your mentors are already in your network. You just perhaps haven't actually reached out to them yet, or they haven't found you yet. So I've talked about this before in other sessions. We really do want to leverage, especially your SOM network, your LinkedIn connections and friends, people here at SOM. I had a great conversation the other day with someone who had attended a bunch of these webinars, but hadn't really thought about connecting back to people that they'd gone to school with, had a wonderful connection with somebody that they hadn't talked to in 15 years, and the years melted away. And in that brief conversation, they were sharing some really helpful information back and forth that made a difference. That's a person that is out there. You just haven't tapped that person yet. I spoke earlier today with someone who has opportunities to share with others, and she was struggling with, well, how do I get this information out? So a quick suggestion of a couple of people here at SOM that they could reach out to. Oh, that's going to happen now too. These are people that are right here. And again, another quick example of a conversation. Somebody's getting ready for an interview and didn't know anyone specifically at that company. And we jumped into LinkedIn very quickly, and using the company tool, clicked on people, put in a subcategory of Yale School of Management, and lo and behold, there's 9 people at that company that have gone to the Yale School of Management, 2 of which he realized he already knew. So super easy to now reach out to those folks and say, hey, I'm getting ready for this opportunity. And not only to get some really valuable information that's going to help in a potential interview process, but also some people that are on the inside advocating for him as somebody who would be a valuable addition to the organization. So you do have really wonderful networks, and they are people that care about you because of your shared experiences, even if you don't know them yet. So again, if you are interested in kind of reaching out to people and you're not quite sure how to do it, I'm very, very happy to give you some suggestions. And we have a bunch of other webinars out there too that might help you with it as well, including one that we did early in the pandemic, which was networking in the age of social distancing. So something else is important for you to think about as we're talking about these relationships. Relationships are mutual. You give and you take. And I want to share this idea from Keith Ferrazzi, who is a Yale College graduate. The currency of real network is not greed, but generosity. So it's not all about what do you get. It really is about both what do you give and what do you get, and how is this a really great experience for both people. Universal currency is just kind of how you show up generally to the world. And are you a kind person? Kind of saying hello. How do you treat people? Kind of when you're driving or in the grocery store. Professional currency is really about what you have to offer from a work perspective, how you use your knowledge for the benefit of business and society for those of us who are here at the Yale School of Management. And that's a big piece of what we're talking about today in terms of what you have to offer as you're looking at growing your career. And you also have this idea of personal currency, and that's what you're really sharing and caring directly. We're sharing and caring directly with people what you're giving of yourself personally. Some people talk about, well, if you won the lottery, what would you do with it? That actually says a lot about your personal currency and where you choose to spend yourself. An idea of personal currency, I'll take you back years. I was at an event, live event in New York City, and there was a young person who was super excited to speak with the keynote speaker of this event. And this person happened to be a benefactor of a important school in New York that supported young women of color primarily, and really kind of set them up in ways that they wouldn't have gotten through a public schooling system. And she said, I have nothing to offer this person. We just had a breakfast together, and I knew that she volunteered to teach these same students how to ice skate. She was a very avid ice skater, and that was something that she did for fun on the weekends, is that she taught these people who otherwise wouldn't have had lessons how to do it. It was the same population, introduced her to the keynote speaker. She was super excited to make that connection. It had nothing to do with, kind of business, but it was that personal, we care about the same people and we're getting to them in different ways, in the ways we can. That was personal currency. And that has value to people. Another piece of personal currency. Oh, by the way, the keynote speaker took the person's information and they had a separate private meeting, which was much more intimate and productive than any of the handshakes that happened in kind of the receiving line at that event. So another example of personal currency is helping people's kids. If you have children who are interested in colleges or School of Management or wherever, and someone who's there, telling them about it, helping in those ways, making introductions, that's personal currency. So there's lots of different things you have to give that aren't necessarily specifically related to the job that you're in. So I do want you to kind of think about that and really be thoughtful about what could people appreciate. We tend not to appreciate the things that we actually find easy for us to give. The things that we find very easy for ourselves, sometimes it's very hard for other people. So that's another potential thing that you can do is maybe take some time to brainstorm, what do I have to offer? And think more broadly, what do people come to you for? What have people said thank you for? And really kind of broaden your idea about what you have to offer. Another example I shared with someone recently who was just graduated and moving into a role in construction. I encourage them. I have a background in accounting. In the early part of my career, I spent a lot of time auditing companies, including some construction companies. So I had a point of view here. I suggested he get to know the accountant because that would do two things. He would have an understanding of what was happening in terms of how business decisions were being made and how revenue was being recognized, and the accountant would have a person to ask about what's happening in the field. So it really was by having a conversation that wasn't required. It really strengthened both of those individuals in just sharing, here's what my job looks like, and let me understand how it connects to your job. That's some light personal currency and bordering into professional currency that can be helpful. So lots of different ways to think about what you have to offer. More Keith Ferrazzi information. I'm a fan of some of his work. It comes out of his book, Never Eat Alone. It's relationship action planning. So if we think about that circle earlier on in terms of how many people do we have in our relationships, and you're thinking about trying to add in some of these supercharged relationships, some of the big three, your advocates, sponsors, and mentors. How do you actually do that? How do you make that happen? Who are the people who are most important to your career success? So the process that Keith puts out there, relationship action planning, really looks at this process where we're first targeting, listing out who are those people who are most important, and then prioritizing those relationships, defining what do we want that relationship to look like, how do we want it to be. In that, you might be also talking about what currency or exchange is there. How do we help each other? Where's that mutuality in that relationship? And aligning, that's part of the alignment process. And then there's a thought outreach. And we've talked about this in other webinars as well. We want to ask for things when we outreach that people will say yes to. You don't want to ask for something that's too big. You don't want to ask for something that they don't have the potential to say yes to or to deliver. So you want to take those small steps and think about where are we in the relationship today and where do we want the relationship to go. So if you're thinking about a few people who could potentially be in good position to sponsor or mentor you, you want to think about how do I begin to cultivate that relationship? Because it's, again, not going to happen like that overnight. You're going to have to think about that over time and what are the steps that we might take. And then, for any relationship, you want to kind of be clear, am I achieving what we're trying to achieve in the relationship? Is it still working? And then you want to maintain it and renew it. Another suggestion I give to people often is that when you're thinking about maintaining this relationship action plan or growing it, you want to have a conversation with someone. It's somebody who's kind of in your top 25, and you want to write down, make a note at the time of your last meeting. What did we talk about? What are they worried about? What's going on for them? And what do I want to accomplish, the next time we speak? What do I think I want to share or ask about? Sounds simple, but asking somebody about, hey, the last time we spoke, you shared that your granddaughter was about to be in a big performance. How did that go? People appreciate that you actually authentically cared and remembered about them. So please don't, kind of do this just to kind of, be schmoozy about it. It really does need to come from a place of true caring and authenticity. If you want these people to work for you, you're going to work for them as well. And this is, important advice in any relationship, business or in life, really paying attention and caring and knowing what you have to offer. Another suggestion in terms of, kind of keeping in touch with people and things that you can do, you're, kind of making sure that you remember, what do they care about? What are they worried about? What are they kind of focused on today in their world? So that when an email pops up or a LinkedIn post for a type of a job pops up, to send that to them, even if it's not the right job for them. It could be a company that they're interested in or something like that, or an article where one of their competitors is speaking about something. Just, kind of really letting people know that you're thinking about them, you're thinking about what they care about, and that's going to keep you top of mind in their view too. So they'll be more likely to share with you and develop that ongoing reciprocity. So let's see, what else do we have here? Again, have a plan. If you are wanting to meet someone and develop a relationship with a potential mentor, how do you do it? What is the relationship today? Again, we can look at this status in the similar way that we were looking at Dunbar circles earlier. Is it an aspirational relationship where you're aware of them, but you don't know each other yet? Or are we talking about somebody in the inner circle? And if we bring it back to the relationship action planning, you're going to have, different frequencies that you're going to want to speak with each of these people. And you're going to want to have different intimate conversations with the different groups, depending on where you are in the relationship. So really thinking about that and making time for that. Another concept I want to just put out there for folks is that we often think about these relationships until we're looking for a job and we are wanting to, kind of move up. And it's super important to cultivate these long before we're looking. If we're talking about a mentor, it could be somebody not in our company, it could be somebody who we worked with in the past. If we're looking at a sponsor, it's somebody that you're developing a relationship with, well before you're being put up for promotion, so that it's easy for them to speak on your behalf comes time for that. So if you want to get to the top floor and you're on the street level now, imagining that those people shaking hands are on the top floor, that level of kind of intimacy and camaraderie doesn't happen in a short amount of time. So how do we move through there, and even looking at what does it mean to be different? What is a friend versus a good friend or an inner circle? What is an advocate versus a sponsor? And what are those behaviors? And am I making it easy for that person to do that for me? And also, am I showing up in a way that lets them know how much I care about the relationship and how much I'm willing to give back there as well? In any conversation, this is one more idea about thinking about any of the conversations you have with folks. Define wild success for it. So if you are, for example, in a space where somebody who you see as being a potential great mentor is in front of you, what does wild success look like? You may have never met them before. You may be at a conference. You maybe bump into them, kind of outside the bathroom or in a line for coffee. What does wild success in that interaction look like? It's not going to be the, hey, let's exchange numbers and please come into my office for an hour meeting, because they don't know you yet. It's what is that appropriate small step? And what do you want them to know about you? Facts. What do you want them to believe about who you are? Again, if we're talking about mentors and advocates and sponsors, you want them to see your potential. You want them to believe that you're somebody that they want to, kind of hitch their ride to, so to speak. How do you want them to feel? You often don't agree to have longer term meetings and make larger commitments to people with whom you don't have great feelings. If you're feeling anxious or used or put upon, or where it's just not a good use of your time, whatever reason, you're going to want to think about how do you want them to feel. Another piece is to think about when you're trying to develop trust and rapport. You want to choose language that's going to support that trust and rapport, as opposed to, some people want to sound smart, and sometimes sounding smart doesn't necessarily make you as relatable. So just really thinking about how you want the person to feel, and then what do you want them to be able to do at the end? And are you asking for what you want? Are you advocating, self-advocating for what you think is really useful in that conversation or that relationship? Look at it from your perspective and look at it from their perspective. So we're kind of close to the end, and I want to talk to you about one more relationship that you might think about using to support you in your career. We talked about a lot already. I want to talk about the coach. So I know a little something about coaching. I am available to coach you. You know how to find me through the Yale School of Management alumni portal, the career page, your career. You'll find not only career resources and recording webinars, including this one in a couple of days when it's put in all of the ones we've done over the last few years. You'll find other great resources, like a course that will tell you how to use LinkedIn the way I was just describing it a little while ago, to really do some thorough research to help to grow your network and really find out who the industry leaders are and find out what people care about that you might want to learn more about. But coaching is really an opportunity for that person who is independent to help you to see yourself better, and who is also potentially able to help you to see opportunities beyond that which you've already kind of considered. So just wanted to kind of point that out. And this is, again, a book by Eric Schmidt. I mentioned him earlier today. He wrote a book about his coach, Bill Campbell, and how important that external thought was to his success and to Google and Alphabet's success. So it could be me, it could be a coach from your undergraduate institution, or another person who kind of holds that space for you. But again, that independent performer who is able to kind of observe what you're doing and help to encourage to make sure that you're on the path that you say that you want to be on, and that you're heading in a good direction is a good person to have in your world. So again, we mentioned a minute ago, and I know Kayla has put it in the notes here. Here are a variety of our other career webinars. We do have another webinar that's more about networking that we can go into, that goes into some other details that could be helpful for you that we didn't go into here today. Storytelling, how do you tell the story of your career in ways that are going to be attractive to the audience? A lot of these different things could be helpful. Unpacking job descriptions as you're thinking about what you want to do in the future, really spending some time with job descriptions and then going to some of these senior leaders to understand more from their perspective. I think I'd like to do this someday. This is what I understand that is about. Do I have that right? Would help that person to see that you really do know what you're talking about and you are preparing well. And that might make it easier for them to choose you as being their mentee or their sponsoree. So lots of information in here that could be potentially helpful for you. And I also do want to again say a big thank you to Kayla Hayslip, who is behind all of these webinars, without who couldn't actually do any of this. So thank you to Kayla and to the alumni relations team for that. Also, before we kind of move into your questions, I want to remind you to please fill out the survey. And I think, Kayla, did you put the survey out there for folks yet? If you, just seeing what we have here, if you would, that'd be great. Yeah, there's a survey. So the survey is in the chat, and I am now ready to, if you are interested, answer any questions that you have out there. So happy to support kind of your thinking and how you want to create these stronger relationships for you that are going to get you to where you want to go in your career. I'm not seeing any questions yet. Kayla, do you have any questions, or is there anything that you think I might have skipped over, or you'd want me to go through more detail?
Nothing on my end, Cindy. Thanks for this. This was really helpful.
Super, super. So, if there aren't any questions right now, just to kind of, remind you that, wherever you are in your career journey, we're here to support you. Whether you're considering a future change, or whether you are actively searching for your next role, or just thinking about what you want to do in the future. The library is here for you, resources are here for you, coaching is here for you. And I also want to remind you to check out the other things on the alumni website. There are some phenomenal articles out there by industry experts, Yale faculty, and alumni who are also potentially those people who could be your really powerful advocate, sponsors, and mentors. So with that, you can continue to scroll through, keep in touch with us, and if you have any questions or comments, you're of course welcome to reach out to me, as it says here, to create a personal conversation in a coaching conversation. So again, thank you everybody for being here. I hope you feel a little bit more comfortable and confident about what some of those powerful relationships could be, how you might like to use them personally in your own career or relationship. And we'll see you next month when we're going to talk about more about how to use LinkedIn more productively in your career search and in your career generally. So thank you.